Use the number. Do give us a call on that. Childhood vaccinations against diseases like measles and whooping cough have fallen to their lowest levels in more than a decade. The World Health Organization recommends 95% of children have these routine jabs by the age of 5 to control potential outbreaks. But last year, just 84% of children had all doses of the MMR jab, for instance, while only 83% were fully covered by the 6-in-1. And at the same time, of course, vaccine skepticism's risen, with a third of adults telling YouGov that they believe that jabs have harmful effects that are being kept secret. Countries like Germany and Singapore do require children to be vaccinated for measles before entering school. So should we think about mandatory vaccines here? Well, why don't I start with you on this one, Karen? You've got grown-up children now. But I mean, do you think it is so important that children are vaccinated that it ought to be compulsory?
No, I don't believe it should be compulsory. I think people have the right to choose. As you say, my children are grown up, so that sort of issue doesn't really, I don't have too much to say on that in that respect. But I do think that we should have a choice, and I think there's been a lot of talk around COVID, and I think that's where we've been, lost our trust in what the government or whatever say we should be doing, or the NHS. So
well, let's move on to it, because he has kids at exactly the right age for all of this, and yours are fully vaccinated to the hilt, right?
Well, I'm glad you asked.
Yeah, you've got your book to show me, haven't you?
I had
He's done
to
his
check.
homework. Show and tell.
I had to check. So
yeah.
I brought in. A lot of people might be familiar with this book. This is the Little Red Book, which actually they started giving out, I think, in the 70s
well, my children
and 80s,
still have them, yeah.
But they still do it now, and they're incredibly useful. And I had to do a little check today to run through all the different vaccinations to check that Elizabeth and Albert were bang up to date, because there are so many. By the time you get to 2, and you're thinking, all right, have I had the MMR? Have I had the MemB? Yeah, and then you kind of get these little stickers, and they've all had them, and they're up to date.
Do they not remind you though?
You don't get reminded sometimes.
They don't.
I mean, when I vaccinated my daughter, she's 13 now, but I've vaccinated her with everything, and she's had additional vaccinations because we travelled to Ghana, and you need additional things for that. But they definitely would remind us.
Really?
For her vaccinations, I don't think it should be mandatory, but I do understand why, especially in certain communities, there's vaccine skepticism, and I think it's certainly increased since the pandemic, because the COVID-19 vaccine was rolled out so incredibly quickly. I think people thought to themselves, well, hold on, what was going on here, and perhaps really looked into vaccines, what they're made of, who is giving them out, the companies, the history behind them, and things they've done in the past that frankly are dodgy and are out there. So I understand why there is vaccine skepticism and why rates have fallen to 84%.
Well, hi, Carol. What do you remember from when you were a child?
Hi there.
Hi.
Hello, yes. I remember when I went to school, you could not go to school unless you had had your vaccines. It was mandatory to have them preschool.
And do you feel that should be reinstated?
Yes, I do, yes.
And after all, it's not difficult to do, is it? On the first day of school, you come with your little red book and you show it to the teacher or the school secretary. It doesn't cost anybody any money at all. And if you're not up to date with your vaccines, unfortunately, you can't attend.
Yeah, but Carol, can I just push back a little bit?
That's exactly how we were treated when we started school, yes.
Yeah.
But can I just push back a little bit on that? We kind of had this happen again, didn't we, during COVID, where people like Dr. Amos were told that if they weren't vaccinated, then they wouldn't be able to come to work. And the government actually eventually said, no, if we do that, then maybe we're not going to have enough doctors and nurses who are actually working. So if we make those rules so harsh, so heavy, and just put up a barrier, then people will just go, no. And then the rates may fall even further.
People don't always like being told what to do, do they?
Exactly.
They like to have choice.
And I think parents, we should have the autonomy and be trusted to do the best for our children. And yes, we believe and we know that vaccines are safe, that the effects of the illnesses, polio, measles, all these things are worse than the side effects of the vaccine. We just have to keep reiterating that and have people believe the truth that is out there, that vaccines work and they're good for us.
Let's talk to Joan, who's on the line in Sheffield. What do you think, Joan? You feel quite similarly that children without vaccinations shouldn't go to school?
I do, actually. I obviously think that a parent's right is their right, and that should not be taken away from them. But I feel that if a child goes to school and has got one of the illnesses that could be passed on, to children in school who then, which is the main thing, can go home and pass it on to their parents who are vulnerable, who have diseases, not diseases, but immune systems, and it could play a very, very bad part. So, yes, let the parent decide, but then maybe they don't have the direct choice to go to school.
Well, that's almost saying it's compulsory and mandatory, isn't it? If you say, well, if you don't vaccinate, you can't come to school. I don't think most parents would feel comfortable homeschooling. So that's pretty much pulling the plug on unvaccinated children at school. Should we go to Jean in Middlesbrough? Hi, Jean.
Hi.
What do you feel's going on here?
Well, what I think is that the government or a body, the health service, should put out what could happen if children get measles. They can go blind. Girls who don't have rubella, measles vaccination, can have disabled children.
True.
Boys that get mumps can be sterile.
Yes, absolutely true.
Oh, hi. I work for the NHS with the Healthy Child programme, so we see families on a daily basis with their red books, and there's many families, parents that are refusing the vaccination due to some of it unfounded theories that they are listening to other parents or friends and doing their own research, but nothing that the NHS has, endorsed. Links to autism, and we found that it's been proven that the families, there's no ethnic group majority, it's just a complete mix across the board. So we try and educate our families to hopefully get vaccinated, because it is, as we've been talking about, vital. It can change a child or a person's life for the worse, cause disabilities if they're not vaccinated against these horrible diseases.
But are you having much luck with it? Are you succeeding in changing people's minds, or is it very difficult?
It's more, the majority is it's more difficult, but you can talk to people and advise them and ask them if they're aware of the risks, which they say they are, but it's not really founded.
Right. So in other words, their hesitancy is based on something that has no factual basis, that isn't proven, in fact has been disproven, and yet they still feel in the grips of this hesitancy, and it's hard to shift their position, which is incredibly worrying for their children and everybody else's children too. Thank you so much. Thanks for ringing, Cassandra.